I used to work the night shift at a gas station, and one rainy morning around 5 a.m., I was heading home on my bike. The road was completely empty, and the only way home was through a long forest road that always felt creepy before sunrise. I told myself I'd just pass through it quickly, but as soon as I entered the forest, my bike suddenly slipped on the wet road. I crashed hard onto the asphalt and got thrown several feet away. The pain was bad, but I quickly got back up and kept riding. A few minutes later, I looked down and realized my left arm was badly scraped open and blood was pouring fast. So I stopped in the middle of the forest road and pressed some tissues against the wound to stop the bleeding. I was so focused on the pain and the bleeding that I didn't even realize I was standing almost in the middle of that empty forest road. Everything around me felt dead silent. The only sound was the rain hitting the road and dripping through the trees. Because of the storm, the forest looked even darker and thicker than before, and honestly, the whole place started terrifying me. I quickly pressed tissues against my arm to slow the bleeding, got back on my bike, and started leaving. But just a few feet ahead of me, someone suddenly stepped out from the side of the forest. He was wearing a dark raincoat with the hood covering most of his face. In one hand, he was holding several dogs on leashes, and one of them was a German Shepherd. The dogs immediately started barking aggressively at me. At first, I felt slightly relieved seeing the leashes in his hand, but when I tried talking to him, he started acting strangely. Instead of responding normally, he kept pulling the dogs closer toward me like he was trying to scare me away. By that point, I was already extremely uncomfortable. I couldn't stop wondering what someone was doing inside a forest at nearly 5 in the morning during heavy rain. Then slowly, without saying a single word, he walked across the road and disappeared back into the trees on the other side. I stopped my bike for a second and kept staring toward the forest, trying to understand where he had gone. But the fear inside me kept getting worse, so I quickly started my bike again and sped away. After riding some distance, I looked back one last time, and what I saw still terrifies me to this day. That man had stepped out of the forest again and was standing exactly where I had been moments earlier. But this time, he was holding an axe in his hand. He just stood there silently, staring directly at me through the rain. The axe definitely wasn't in his hand before. At that moment, I genuinely felt like he had gone into the forest to get it, and maybe if I had stayed there a little longer, he would have attacked me. I rode out of that forest as fast as I possibly could. When I finally got home, I told my grandparents everything, and they contacted the police. The police searched the area later that morning, but they never found the man or the dogs. But I know what I saw. That wasn't my imagination. And even now, years later, I still get chills thinking about the possibility that maybe he planned to kill me and feed my body to those dogs. A few months ago, me with my wife and our kids moved into a small apartment in Portland. Money was really tight at the time, so I started driving a taxi during night shifts. A lot of people in the area had my number, so whenever they needed a ride, they'd call me directly. Honestly, I couldn't afford to say no to anyone. One evening, it was raining heavily while I was heading back after dropping off a passenger near a small town outside the city. The roads were almost completely empty, and the only sound around me was the rain hitting the windshield. As I drove past a street light, I noticed a young woman standing there holding an umbrella. From far away, she looked completely normal. She raised her hand slightly, signaling for me to stop, so I pulled over and let her into the taxi. But the moment she sat in the back seat, I noticed something strange about her. Her skin was extremely pale, like unnaturally white. I asked her where she wanted to go, but she just kept repeating the same thing over and over again. "Please take me home. It's a little further ahead." So I followed the direction she pointed toward. But after around 20 minutes of driving, I realized we had already crossed 2 or 3 small towns, and the area around us was getting quieter and more isolated. Eventually, she told me to stop near a strange empty area where there were only a few houses. But one house in particular immediately caught my attention. Even from far away, the place looked completely abandoned. The whole house looked dark, damaged, and lifeless. She asked me to stop right in front of it. At that point, I already felt really uncomfortable, but before getting out, she handed me money. When I looked down, I realized she had given me $250. I immediately told her she had paid too much, but she didn't respond. She simply stepped out into the rain and started walking toward the house while holding her umbrella. For some reason, I couldn't even force myself to step out of the taxi. I rolled the window down and kept calling out to her so I could return the extra money, but she ignored me completely. I just sat there watching her walk toward that strange abandoned house. Then she stopped near the front door and just stood there staring at it for a few seconds. And then slowly, she turned around and looked directly at me. She was smiling, but it was a very strange smile, almost unnatural. Seeing that immediately made me feel terrified. Then I noticed she had slowly started walking back toward my taxi. At that moment, I probably made the best decision of my life. I instantly drove away from there as fast as I could. The next day, I picked up a passenger who lived near that same area, so I asked him about the house. The moment I mentioned it, his expression changed. He told me most people avoid living there because of that house, which is why many homes around it were empty. Then he told me something horrifying. According to people living there, strange entities haunted that house at night. Some people had even claimed they saw an old man near the road signaling strangers and trying to lead them toward that house. The moment I heard that, I realized the girl I picked up that night was not normal. And honestly, I still believe that if I had stayed there any longer that night, something terrible would have happened to me.